I disappeared after learning my wife's baby wasn't mine. I never thought I'd be one of those guys posting here, but life has a way of throwing punches you never see coming. I, 33M, married my wife, 31F, 5 years ago. We met in college. She was the type of person who could light up a room just by walking in. Everyone loved her energy, her kindness, the way she'd always put others first. She was studying to be a teacher. I was studying engineering. We were broke college kids back then, but it didn't matter. We dreamed about building a future together, talked about traveling the world, having kids, and growing old side by side. Fast forward a few years, we'd both built stable careers. I was working for a tech firm, and she'd become a beloved middle school teacher. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but it was solid, or so I thought. We had our routines: morning coffee together, lazy Sunday breakfasts, random movie nights. When she told me she was ready to try for a baby, I was over the moon. I'd always wanted to be a dad. After months of trying, she finally came running into my office one morning holding a pregnancy test, crying and laughing at the same time. I remember dropping to my knees, hugging her, and thinking, this is it. This is everything I've ever wanted. I spoiled her during the pregnancy. Late night food runs for her cravings, building the nursery myself, reading every baby book I could find. I even started journaling, little letters I wanted to read to our baby someday. Everything seemed perfect. I used to watch her sleep, one hand on her belly, and think, I'm the luckiest man alive. Or so I thought. It started small. During one of her checkups, I noticed the doctor mentioned that the baby's gestational age didn't line up exactly with what we'd thought. My wife brushed it off, said the doctor must have calculated wrong. I didn't think much of it, but something about her reaction stuck in my mind. A few weeks later, I realized the timeline didn't match up with when we last. We'd been so busy with work at the time, intimacy had been rare. I tried to push the thought away. Told myself I was just overthinking, being paranoid. She'd never given me a reason not to trust her. Then, one night, while she was showering, I went to grab her phone to check the time, but noticed it wasn't there. Instead, I saw another phone inside her purse, one I'd never seen before. My stomach dropped. I opened it, and the world as I knew it fell apart in an instant. Messages from a contact named Jake, a gym coach at her school. Married, mid-30s. I'd met him once at a school fundraiser. He'd shaken my hand, smiled, and called me lucky. The messages were recent and disgusting. Can't wait to see our baby. He'll never know. You looked so hot last night. I don't even remember how long I stared at that screen. My ears were ringing, my chest felt like it was on fire. Every word I read shattered another piece of me. The worst part? I remembered how she'd been talking about the baby's dad jokes, how he would inherit my humor. She'd said it while looking me dead in the eye. And all that time, she already knew. I didn't confront her right away. I took screenshots, transferred copies to a drive, and hid the second phone back in her purse. I wanted to be absolutely sure before I blew up my life. When the baby was born, I asked for a DNA test. I said it was routine, that I wanted to know for medical reasons. She hesitated, but eventually agreed. When the results came in, the paper felt heavier than stone in my hands. 0% match. I waited until she was home. I laid the paper on the table and said quietly, "Do you want to explain this?" She froze, eyes wide. For a second, I thought she might lie, but then her shoulders dropped and tears started to fall. "It was a mistake," she whispered. "I didn't think it'd go this far. It only happened a few times. I didn't mean for it to—" I didn't even hear the rest. My head was pounding, my heart felt like someone had squeezed it until it stopped beating. All I could think about were the nights she'd held my hand, the way she'd smiled during the ultrasound, the way she'd said, "our baby." I remember standing up, walking to our bedroom, and packing a small bag. She followed me, sobbing, begging me to talk to her. I didn't say a word. I wrote a short note, left it on the kitchen counter. "Take care of your baby. I need time to think." and I walked out. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I drove for hours, through cities, down empty highways, until I reached a small town I'd never been to before. I rented a cheap apartment with the cash I'd withdrawn, deactivated every social media account, and quit my job by email. The first few nights, I barely slept. I'd wake up thinking I heard a baby crying. I'd reach over instinctively for her, only to realize I was alone. But after a while, the silence started to feel comforting. I didn't have to pretend to be okay. I didn't have to fake smiles for coworkers or explain anything to friends. I was just gone. And in a strange, messed up way, I felt free. I'm still trying to process everything. I don't know what happens next, or if I'll ever go back. But one thing's for sure, the man I was before that DNA test doesn't exist anymore. I didn't tell anyone where I went. No one knows where I am, not even her. I'm not sure if I'll ever go back.
Update 1. She found me. It's been about 8 months since my original post. Back then, I said I wasn't sure if I'd ever go back. Now, after what happened last week, I know I never will. When I left, I drove until my mind went blank. I ended up in a small coastal town a few states away, one of those places that tourists forget about after summer ends. The kind of town where everyone minds their own business and no one asks too many questions. It was perfect. I rented a tiny apartment above a diner, started doing remote freelance engineering work under a new name, and spent most days walking along the shoreline. Therapy helped me piece myself together a little at a time, though there were days when I barely recognized the man in the mirror. Out here, I was nobody. No wedding band, no expectations, no reminders of what I'd lost. No one knew I was a husband, or almost a father. There was something peaceful about being anonymous. I could breathe again. I could go days without thinking about the betrayal, until I'd see a father holding his kid's hand or hear a baby laugh, and that old ache would claw its way back up my chest. One afternoon, I got an email from an old mutual friend. Just one line. "She's looking for you. She says she's sorry." I stared at it for a while, then deleted it without replying. I didn't want to reopen old wounds. She made her choices, I made mine. I wasn't going to let her drag me back into that hell. Or, at least, that's what I thought. It happened 6 months later. It was a quiet morning. The ocean was calm, the air smelled like salt and coffee. I was sitting at my usual cafe, laptop open, working on a project. I remember looking up when the door opened, hearing the soft jingle of the bell, and then my heart stopped. She was standing there. My wife. She looked thinner, paler, like someone had taken all the life out of her. Dark circles under her eyes, hair tied back messily, clutching a photo in her hand. I couldn't move. For a few seconds, it was like time froze. Her eyes found mine, and I saw every emotion hit her at once. Relief, guilt, pain. "Hi," she said quietly, voice trembling. "I had to find you. Please, just listen." I didn't say a word. I wanted to walk out, but my legs refused to move. She sat down across from me like she'd done it 1,000 times before. But this time, everything between us was dead. She told me she'd found me through a slip-up from one of my old friends, someone I thought I could trust. Combined with some trail of bank records, she eventually tracked me to this town. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said quickly. "I just needed to see you, to explain." Apparently, her affair with Jake ended before she realized she was pregnant. When Jake's wife found out about the affair, she filed for divorce and exposed everything to their community. He lost his job at the gym and moved away. When she found out she was pregnant, she said she panicked. Jake told her he wanted nothing to do with the baby and blocked her number. She claimed she didn't know what to do, that she convinced herself I could still be the father. "I lost everything," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "My job, my friends, my reputation. But losing you, that was worse." She slid the photo across the table. It was a picture of her holding the baby, maybe 8 or 9 months old. A beautiful little boy. She looked up at me, eyes pleading. "Please, I'm not asking for you to come back. I just needed you to know I'm sorry. I've been in therapy. I'm trying to be better. but I can't live without at least saying this to your face. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the woman I used to know. The woman who used to laugh at my terrible jokes, who cried at dog movies, who dreamed about naming our future kids. But that woman was Dawn. I took a deep breath. "You said you didn't want me to come back," I said quietly. "Then why are you here?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Because even if you never forgive me, I need you to know I still love you." I stayed silent. I didn't trust myself to speak. Part of me wanted to yell, to demand why she destroyed everything. Another part wanted to get up and walk away. She started crying harder, voice shaking. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I'll never forgive myself either. But I wake up every day thinking about what I did to you, to us. I wish I could undo it." I stared at her for a long time before saying, "You can't." She nodded slowly, wiping her tears. Then she pulled out another photo, a close-up of the baby smiling. "He's beautiful," she said. "You know, sometimes when he smiles, he looks like you." That's when something inside me snapped. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. "Don't," I said, my voice low. "Don't do that." She looked confused. "Do what?" "Don't try to make me feel connected to him," I said. "That baby isn't mine. You made sure of that." Her face crumbled. She covered her mouth and sobbed quietly, shaking her head. "I know. God, I know. I wish I could take it back." I leaned back in my chair, exhaling shakily. You know, I always dreamed of being a father. I used to imagine holding my kid, teaching him how to ride a bike, seeing a little version of us running around the house. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. "But now," I continued, "that dream feels poisoned. Every time I think about fatherhood, all I can see is that test result. You didn't just cheat on me. You killed the version of me that trusted you, the man who believed in love, the man who believed in us." She cried harder. People in the cafe started glancing over, but I didn't care. For the first time since everything happened, I finally said what had been buried in my chest for months. We sat there in silence for a long time after that. The only sound was her quiet sobbing and the soft hum of the espresso machine. Eventually, she whispered, "Is there any hope for us?" I shook my head. "I don't hate you anymore," I said softly, "but I'll never come back." She nodded, biting her lip to stop it from trembling. She reached out like she wanted to touch my hand, but stopped herself halfway. Then she stood up, whispered a final "I'm sorry," and walked out the door. I watched her disappear down the street until she turned the corner and was gone. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the empty chair across from me. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel broken. Just finished. It wasn't peace, exactly, but it was something close. Something like acceptance. That night, I went back to my apartment, opened my laptop, and typed this. "She found me, but I'm not the man she remembers." Sometimes, disappearing isn't running away. It's surviving. Final update. It's been almost a year since she found me at that cafe. Sometimes it feels like it all happened to someone else, like I've been watching my own life from a distance. Other days, it still hits me in waves, but I can finally say this: the storm has passed. After that encounter, she didn't try to contact me again. No unexpected visits, no late-night calls, no drama, just silence, the kind that used to feel heavy, but now feels merciful. A few months later, I got a letter. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. I left it unopened on my kitchen table for weeks. Every time I looked at it, part of me wanted to rip it apart, and another part of me wanted to know if she'd changed. One rainy evening, I finally opened it. It wasn't long, just a few pages, but it was raw, honest, and full of pain. She wrote that she'd started therapy, not because she wanted to win me back, but because she finally realized how deeply broken she was, how much damage she'd caused. She said she was focusing on raising her son right, teaching him to be honest and kind. She didn't try to justify anything, didn't ask for forgiveness, just said she hoped I'd find peace someday and thanked me for teaching her what love actually meant. I don't know how long I sat there reading it. When I finished, I felt calm.
Not angry, not sad, just still. I folded the letter carefully, walked outside to the little fire pit behind my apartment, and watched it burn. The paper curled, the ink faded, and the smoke drifted up into the night sky, taking the last remnants of our story with it. It wasn't vengeance, it wasn't spite, it was release. That was the moment I finally let go. After that night, something in me shifted. I started doing things I'd been putting off, traveling, exploring, reconnecting with parts of myself I'd forgotten. I visited my brother, who I hadn't spoken to in years after a stupid argument. He didn't ask many questions, just hugged me and said, "You're home, man." We talked for hours, laughed about old times, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I belonged somewhere. I started journaling again, writing not about her, but about me, my thoughts, my healing, the quiet moments that made life feel worth living again. I realized how much of myself I'd lost trying to be everything to someone who couldn't even be honest with me. One day, while walking past the community center, I saw a flyer for a kids' mentorship program. I hesitated. The idea of being around kids made my chest tighten, but something told me to try. It ended up being one of the best decisions I've ever made. The first few weeks were awkward. I didn't know what to say or how to connect. But then this shy 12-year-old kid named Ethan opened up to me. His dad had walked out, and he was struggling to focus in school. We started working on small projects together, building simple machines, fixing up old electronics. Slowly, I saw him gain confidence. Helping him and the other kids gave me a sense of purpose I didn't know I needed. I realized I didn't have to be a father to make a difference. I could still guide, teach, and care, just in a different way. And somewhere in that process of helping others, I started healing myself. There's someone new, too. Nothing romantic. Not yet, anyway. Her name's Clara. She works at the community center, kind-hearted, calm, with the kind of smile that makes you believe life can still be gentle. We talk after every session about music, travel, books. It's slow, patient, genuine. And for the first time in years, I don't feel the need to rush anything. Trust is something I'm rebuilding, one conversation at a time. Looking back now, it's strange to think about how everything unfolded. She tried to rebuild the home she burned, but I built a new one instead, inside myself. For a long time, I thought forgiveness meant telling her it's okay, but it's not. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't for her. It's for me. It's letting go of the version of myself that stayed broken because I thought pain was permanent. Sometimes I still think about the baby, not with anger anymore, but with a quiet sadness for what could have been. I hope he grows up happy, loved, and nothing like the mess that created him. I hope she finds peace too, in her own way. But as for me, I've stopped looking back. I wake up before sunrise now, walk to the beach with my coffee, and watch the horizon glow. The ocean doesn't care about my past, it just moves, endlessly, peacefully, always forward. That's how I want to live. The man who vanished that night isn't gone anymore. He's just different, stronger, wiser, whole. And as I sit here finishing this final update, I realize I don't need closure from anyone else. I already found it. She tried to rebuild the home she burned. I built a new one instead, inside myself. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's freedom. I don't know where life will take me next, but for the first time, I'm not running from the past. I'm walking towards my future.